and you're putting a ton of time into your other businesses. So real estate's not, it doesn't sound like it's your extra strategy anymore. It's
Right.
more of a passive income.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it though with the property management that you found challenging that deterred you from wanting to actually handle that yourself?
I think it's the legalities, Colin, because when we transferred here in Texas, because first when we transferred from Washington to Texas, we first lived in Dallas. So one of our properties is in Dallas, and our property in Washington was over there. It's so far away. So when we ended up still giving up the one in Washington, we sold it. It's just like too much for me, even though there's a property manager, And then we just came up here, and then the what do you call this? The rules are different again, and I didn't even know a lot of like lingos over here. Like for example, MUD, PUD. I don't know those from Washington. There's nothing like that. And here in Texas, you need to shop for electricity, like electric bill. You know that here in Houston, you need to shop. There's In Washington, you just have like one line, one electric. Here, you need to shop. So yeah, there's so much things going on here in Houston. I think it's a good market. That's why they're doing it, right? So yeah, so I really wanted to venture like Airbnb also, but it takes a lot of time. That's the thing. It takes so much time. Yeah, and I didn't really enjoy the process too. Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we developed our own property management company to manage our real estate, but I will say that it's not necessarily something that any one of us is passionate about. We've done it, and I think we've, all credit to Jen. We've built a pretty solid property management company with good systems in place, and it runs pretty smoothly now. But it wasn't something that we were particularly excited about. Like none of us are just like, oh my goodness, I just really hope I get like some calls from tenants today complaining about like this, So, but it's kind of a necessary evil. But we're doing it on a different scale too, where it's like if we were hiring that out, it would be a decent chunk of money that we'd be paying. So if you're doing it on a smaller scale and you've got other things going on, it sometimes makes more sense to use a property management company. Did you?
I was saying, and it's our strategy to get out of healthcare at the same time. Like if we were never planning on leaving, if we wanted to just make some extra wealth on the side, then that would be a different story. But we're trying to make as much money from this as we can.
Right. Yeah. Just to have that option if we want.
Yeah, you're gonna make a lot. Yeah, property management. I know there's a lot of people who are like offering, like when we left Houston. But of course, you want it in a bigger scale, which I think you guys are doing like an awesome job with it. Yeah, if you have, I think it's more of organizing it. But the thing is that my husband is not really totally into it, so it's just like by myself. But if you guys are tag teaming, I think that's where the magic happens. So that's why you're not feeling it, because I think your wife is able to like manage it. Yeah. It's more of, or if you're really,
We're feeling it.
yeah,
We're feeling it. We're
yeah,
feeling it because she's feeling it.
yeah,
But it's still worth doing.
yeah. It's something that you
Yeah.
guys should do together so that you can enjoy it,
Yeah.
and yeah, and to have that
Well,
stability too.
yeah, for sure. And like I think you said something that's kind of important. It's like your husband isn't really into it, and so like it falls on you. And then if it's becoming a stress, like an added stress, then it's like, okay, 10% a month or whatever it ends up being at that point might not be worth it, especially on a smaller scale. So did you, when you bought this property, it was just a house that you had lived in,
Yeah, just a,
and then you moved?
yeah.
Okay, so you weren't initially buying it as an investment property?
No, no, yeah, no. We want,
and
oh,
and what made you?
the one in Dallas, yes. We bought it. We lived there for 1 year because that's the rule. You need to live there for 1 year. And we're checking out the area too, so it's double purpose. So the one in Dallas,
Is that because it was an FHA loan,
uh, not
or what was the reason? What was the requirement for the 1 year?
1 year. You need to, before you can rent it out, you need to live there for 1 year. So does that make
Mhm.
sense? Is that,
But
that
yeah, but is
one?
that because you guys had done like the FHA 3.5% down
No,
loan?
we didn't. We should have.
No,
Yeah.
no, so Some
Oh,
other reason?
Yeah,
I haven't heard of that reason
yeah,
or that rule.
yeah. And we cannot
that must be
even
a Texas
rent it
thing.
out to the community too. So some of the places, because it's beside, like it's within radius beside a hotel. Like there's Hampton Inn over there, so we cannot rent it out as an Airbnb. Which, by the way, that area, our townhome right there, is really good for Airbnb. So I was just like, oh, man, we didn't know that. We can do an Airbnb also. Like with that area, yeah, it's perfect because it's walking distance with uh, hospital, and there's a lot of shopping center around. So it didn't work.
Speaking of Airbnb regulations, Colin, were you the one that sent me that reel on somebody was saying that like Marriott or Hilton, one of these big hotel chains is like pouring like millions, like $300 million into lobbying against Airbnb basically because it's taking business away from them.
I,
So
I didn't
I've
I
heard
didn't send
there's
that, but it makes sense.
just so much money being poured into lobbyists trying to stifle Airbnb growth, I guess.
Well, I was gonna say when we interviewed, I think it was Aisha. She's got an Airbnb in Vegas, but it was like, I mean, I think it was the same thing. The hotels in Vegas were just so adamantly against Airbnbs coming in that they created all this extra. You know, obviously they're dumping so much money into like the politicians who are voting against these things, but she was having to pay some hotel tax just to be able to operate her Airbnb, which obviously increased the cost, but she was still able to make money off it. So that was cool. But
Well, and she was an early adopter into Airbnb. So this is before, I think she was grandfathered into a lot of things.
I also heard that actually it's the other way around. The hotels are now doing what the Airbnb does. Do you know that you can buy, like, or you can rent out a hotel room, or buy a hotel room now, and then the hotel will just like do it for you. So that's one of the things that I just found out with one of my business partners, like doing in finance, who was like really into real estate too. Do you want to buy like a hotel room, something like that? Oh my gosh, it's like the hotel business is taking the Airbnb Airbnb model too, you know. So that's kind of interesting.
I work in the Wisconsin Dells every once in a while, and they have something similar there. I wonder because it's like a condo with an association, so I wonder if that's it, where they do all the management and all the booking and everything. I haven't heard of hotels like strict like a Hampton Inn just Airbnb their rooms. I haven't heard of that. Is that kind of what you're saying it is, or is it's more of like the condo?
Yeah, it's not Airbnb the room, but I think you can have like a lease, or you can really be an owner of one of the rooms, something like that, for 30 years. Because I think hotels are franchise, right? They're a franchise model, and then their contract is like 20, 30 years. It's long time. So that's how they do it. And you can just, like, for example, for this 30 years it's Hampton Inn, and then the next year it will become Holiday Inn, right? Whoever wins the bid or something like that. So I think the whole thing, because they're fighting against Airbnb, I think they're already like restructuring their business model or something, right? They're restructuring it because everything now, it should be like within the trend, or else they're gonna be out of business really soon. Right?
about to go buy up a bunch of Super 8
I
motel rooms,
Turn them into
$1,000 a
what?
piece.
Well, hospitals should buy it because it's so hard to, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no,
that's true.
Yes.
what's your specialty, guys? Like on the, because I was like in PC, when I was like working in on the floor, it's so hard to discharge patients because they're very picky. Some patients are very picky. They don't like Super 8, or they don't want to be in this lot or something because there's bed bugs. But so they end up being with us for a longer time, right?
Well, and that's something that you guys, so I'm in the ER, so we dealt with that a lot in the ER, but that was more in the bigger cities. Like now I'm out in more of like the rural area, and it's not, we don't have the same homeless population that we had there, but it became a big deal with case management and everything, where it was like you had to get them a social work consult, and you had to check all these boxes before you could discharge a homeless patient. And they learned it. They learned the system, and they knew, they'd come in at night requesting a social work consult, knowing that the social workers are not there. And then they'd get to spend the night in the ER. They'd see the social worker in the morning, and they'd just refuse all services and then just go back out. I'm not saying all of them did this, but I saw that pretty
Yeah.
frequently, where it was just like, they're abusing the system. But
Uh-huh.
I guess that's a whole different thing. but you got the house hack. You got a couple of real estate properties. Where'd you go from there?
Oh, the other one that I did actually, that I was like, I thought that I will end up like really doing that. But along the way in 2018, finance actually opened to my door too. So I was doing that. The investing part, I was doing it here and there. I don't know if I'm an active, I tried both, passive trader and an active one. So I like the passive, of course, like just like invest and then that's it, forget about it. I tried the active too, but it cost me a lot of headaches, so I left it. And then after that, my husband was just like really into travel nursing. So, but I don't really want to go travel nursing. I said because the agency is the one who's making so much money. But it's the same thing. He said, So I actually did our own agency, like an independent contracting. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. So I did independent contracting. So I opened our own agency, but my and he is like I'm the sole proprietor, or he's the sole proprietor, because so that I can give him salary, right? So I own him basically. So basically,
If he doesn't act right, he gets his pay cut, huh?
yes.